Thank you for joining us at Toy Fair University. Up now we have the art of nostalgia, designing toys with soul. Our speaker today is Mondo Roque from Robots and Rainbows.
A special thank you to the Toy Association for inviting me today to get to share. I want to talk about why some toys last decades while others disappear as soon as trends pass. This is not about copying the past. It is about understanding what actually made those toys matter. In 1977, Kenner sold the most successful Star Wars toy of the year. It was an empty box. No figures, just a promise. Parents bought it anyway. Kids did a wild thing. They waited months. That only worked because the characters already lived in people's imaginations. Kenner did not sell plastic that Christmas. They sold belief. A quick introduction. I didn't just grow up with toys. I grew up studying them. I was the kid who kept the packaging, drew the characters, and wondered why some toys felt alive while others didn't. That curiosity is what led me to collecting, illustration, and eventually designing toys professionally. I'm a veteran creative who has developed over 1 billion, yes, with a B, units of consumer product experiences. It's crazy. I keep doing the math. I don't believe it myself. I work with major licensors in food, media, entertainment, toys, games, and publishing. Across mass markets from kids' meal toys to high-end collectibles, designing some of the biggest toys out there, literally. Why nostalgia is emotional, not visual. When we think back to childhood toys, we don't remember part counts, we remember anticipation, ownership, identity. When toys stay with us, they stop being products and start becoming shared cultural reference points. That emotional residue is what nostalgia really is. It's all about emotion outliving the materials. The art of nostalgia. Nostalgia is not about copying old designs line for line. It is about triggering recognition of tone, attitude, and emotion. When nostalgia loses its soul, it becomes decoration instead of connection. With this Mattel Shogun Godzilla, we see look, feel, texture, size, scale, perspective. What does it feel like for a child to look at this jumbo scale Godzilla, designing from their perspective? Why nostalgia often loses its soul? In our industry, nostalgia often gets treated like a shortcut. But when it's rushed or overly literal, audiences feel it immediately. Products become references, not experiences. Things become too literal, too safe, too fast. And an assumption creeps in. If it's retro, kidults will buy it. Illustration is where the soul enters. Great toys usually start in 2D. Illustration defines attitude, proportion, and emotional read. This is often the critical moment where a toy either gains a soul or never does. With these turtles, I wanted to retain their individual personalities while creating a new narrative for their origin story, an extreme mutation, creating high detail, gnarly, gross out features and function that really just create a new story behind these beloved characters. With this super cyborg Mechagodzilla, I had to imagine what the guts of a giant alien space lizard robot would look like. 1,200 plus rivets later, and a lot of imaginary moving parts and missiles, you have a Godzilla Slayer with intricate, detailed mechanical guts. And looking at this is why illustration matters, because it creates clarity in the goal of the design, not because it looks pretty. Illustration aligns intent. Strong illustration becomes a shared language. Design, engineering, marketing, and licensors align faster when the intent is visually undeniable. When designing this Iron Giant, I found an image that inspired an emotional thread for the product and emphasized the fragile but mighty relationship between the Iron Giant and Hogarth, showing us how visual relationships communicate emotion. With one image, one emotional direction, everyone gets on board, and that's where the magic happens. Retro engineering with purpose. Older toys were not simpler by accident. They were simpler because every decision served the character and the play pattern. Restraint is often how the soul survives a process. In this example, emotion becomes a feature, and the feature becomes the play experience. Not crazy engineering, just a vehicle for setting a child's imagination free. What retro gets right. More articulation doesn't automatically mean more play. Kids connect fastest with toys that read instantly and move the way the characters should move. This example features figures that do one thing right. One thing. They don't have high articulation or piece count, and they don't even look like the cartoon characters from the show with all those amazing 90s colors burning everyone's eyes out. But they hit the perfect gunslinger pose, and that was a play pattern for kids. Where soul is protected. Manufacturing doesn't kill creativity. Unclear priorities do. Most compromises are logical. What matters is knowing which ones cost you the soul of the product. Consider Grimlock, the comedic robot dinosaur who needs an apron to fulfill his comedic gag. Robot dinosaur waiter, everything every 80s child dreamed of as a kid. Defining the non-negotiables. Just like Grimlock needed his apron to pull off his gag, every project needs protected elements, silhouette, expression, color, story, play feature. When those are clear, teams move faster and argue less. This was a figure designed to do two things: basketball and brawl. Slam Dunk and Dawn, in its original release, had a hoop that didn't function. I wanted to make sure that I gave those kids something that they never had as a child, and made sure that this particular figure had a hoop that would assemble from all the accessories, and it was an amazing figure experience. In this case study, I present to you time-traveling toys. Toys designed today that came from yesterday. This project succeeded not because of budget or tech. It worked because character intent was never compromised. Every decision served the core idea, answering a what-if question. What if this came out in 1977 alongside the Mattel Shogun Godzilla? What would it look like? How would it feel? Size, scale, proportions? What do those all look like? This is another example of time-traveling toys. This product trusted the audience. It knew what fans wanted, and it didn't compromise. This line set out to look and feel like the leading action figures in 1978, which were Kenner Star Wars figures. Limited articulation, limited accessories, full of possibilities for kids to play with. Clear identity, focus, play, and restraint beat feature overload. Every enduring toy I have worked on or studies follows this framework. Character. Every great toy starts with character. Not just how it looks, but who it is and what it stands for. Clarity. Clarity is knowing what must never change, even when everything gets negotiated. Constraint. Constraints don't limit creativity. They focus it and reveal what actually matters. And finally, craft. Craft is where intention shows up. In the details people may never notice, but they always feel. These are not steps, they are soul checks. Why the empty box worked? Kenner nailed all 4 pillars before a single figure shipped. Kenner didn't succeed because Star Wars was nostalgic. It succeeded because the characters were already alive in people's minds. Character makes nostalgia possible later. And you never assume that with nostalgia. You always assume that it has to be something old. But recent movies and entertainment, K-pop Demon Hunters, for example, is a great entertainment brand that shows us that nostalgia could be with new brands, bigger and better than some retro brands. And going back to Kenner, this is why parents trusted them and why kids waited. And Kenner itself and this SKU lives on today in a box just like the original 1977 box. Hasbro produces a Kenner box that's actually filled with figures this time. So they learned from the original 1977 box there. The goal, of course, is not to sell empty boxes. It's to design toys so meaningful that people would wait for them. When we design with soul, nothing feels disposable. Nostalgia is not something we copy from the past. It is something we contribute to the future. Let's build the future of play together. Thank you for joining me in my love of toys. If you enjoyed this talk, check out my recent article with a toy book for a similar subject on retro toys. I'll be on the side lounge here if you guys just want to talk more toys or geek out about anything. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.